The number one question that we get at Urban Machine is, why aren't you removing the nails with magnets? Why do you have to touch the nails at all? Today we're going to answer that question, and we're going to deep dive into exactly how Urban Machine is removing nails from lumber.
I'm Alex Teal. I'm the Chief Software Architect here at Urban Machine,
and I'm Andrew Gillies. I'm the CTO at Urban Machine, mostly on the hardware side.
So before we jump into the magnets question, we're going to take you into the robot and show you a little bit about how we are currently doing it. So Andrew, what do we have behind us?
Yeah, so this robot is our main nail picking robot. It's a couple generations old, but I think it'll give you an idea of how we do it here at Urban Machine.
Sweet. Well, let's take a look at that, and then we'll do some nail pulling tests, and then we'll talk about magnets. All right.
Okay, so here's the inside of the robot. You can see there's 4 nail picking gantries, one on the far side, the top, the bottom, and then there's one over here. So what happens is wood's gonna come through the entryway here, and then we fixture it with these clamps. And then once it's fixtured, we scan the volume with some cameras, and then we send the gantries over to those pick points based on what the cameras see. So we send this out, and then we actuate the jaws around the fastener, just like that. This is what we're gonna be talking about on the bench top. So this is an older design. This is like a decommissioned jaw assembly. You can see the basic action here. There's a pneumatic cylinder on the bottom, driving the piston forward, which does this closing action, so that it reaches forward and grabs around the fastener. Over here on the bench top, you see a more modern design where you've upgraded some of the components. You open up the jaws and pneumatically close them around the fastener, and then we extract it.
We get a ton of samples from the field, and they all have different types of nails. Well, here's a type of nail where these are flush to the wood surface and folded over on one side. Here's another folded over example. One problem with these is if you have magnets on here and you pull in, it's pulling the entire shaft because it's all metal, so that will get stuck. And the biggest problem with magnets would be screws, because we'll typically get a lot of screws and they're so hard to pull. It takes several hundred pounds of force. Generating that kind of magnetic field is very difficult. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's look at pulling these screws and look at how much force it takes.
One of the major challenges we had at Urban Machine was validating our jaw designs. There's a lot of force involved and a lot of geometry on how do you get a jaw around the nail. So we came up with this. This is our nail pulling test rig. It allows us to really quickly iterate on the jaw designs without having to build an entire robot. So we can measure the forces and everything going on in here without committing to really expensive hardware. Most importantly, it allows us to move really, really fast. We got a few different things going on here. The first is the superstructure, the chassis that holds it all together. Then we have this gigantic 5-inch pneumatic cylinder that can put up to 2,000 pounds of force through our jaw assembly. And then in here, we have a load cell so we can measure how much we're pushing and pulling on the actual jaws. Then we have some clamping elements down here so we can fixture the wood in place while we actuate everything.
Let's take it for a spin.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So we took out a nail, and I think the peak load around that was about 640 pounds or 290 kilograms. This is a super thick nail, and it went all the way through the wood and it was bent out on the other side. But nails are a solved problem for us. Let's talk about why screws are especially hard. So we've got a screw loaded up in here, and we're ready to pick. Let's see what happens. Look at that. Totally stuck. So the problem with screws, as you can see, is that they'd rather stay in the wood, or sometimes we'll see them just break in half while inside of the wood, then be pulled out.
I forgot to mention at this point in the video that our solution to the screw removal problem is actually an entirely different technology called the cooker, where we basically induct heat into nails, breaking the wood fiber around the threads of the screws, making them easy to pull. We can look at our factory tour video for more information on that.
We were about to do a quick demonstration of exactly what the math is behind the magnets, but it turned to late night because we went down a whole rabbit hole on tons of physics around magnets, trying to figure out how to explain this to you guys.
Turns out magnets are pretty complicated.
They're really complicated. We did this math a few years ago and figured out that you couldn't use magnets, and just going through that path again, it was so hard to figure it out. But we also called Andrew's friend,
Noah.
Noah, physics PhD.
Yeah, chemistry, physics,
Yeah.
PhD from Berkeley.
He walked.
You need to think about the maximum magnetic field that is attainable on Earth.
He walked us through this. He gave us a few things. The math on screen is not indicative of his skills. That's us trying to grok through this as well. But basically what we figured out is we used the magnet from Veritasium's video. That's the world's biggest magnet to our knowledge. And basically it's 45 Teslas, using steel as a perfect steel ball, a nail volume, the permeability of free space. There's all kinds of stuff that went into this that we don't fully understand. But the whole point is that the world's strongest magnet, to our knowledge, could only apply 25 newtons on nail. So we've all heard that magnets are super strong. So why is it so small? It's basically that there's not enough metal. It's too small. These objects are so small that even really strong magnets can't
Apply enough force to them. Yeah.
can't crank it out.
Yeah.
You can't crank it out. And we don't have enough space around a robot for liquid cooling lines yet.
Yeah. So for a variety of reasons, this is completely impractical, aside from it being sort of outside the bounds of physics. Basically, you'd have to be inside a supernova or black holes colliding to generate the magnetic field required to do this. But like we said, we're not experts in the physics of magnetism. If you're out there watching this and you have more to add to this, or you want to sharpen our skills in magnetic physics, hit us up. Let us know in the comments if you have a different take on this. As far as we can tell, this is about the best you can do.
That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was a lot more fun than I actually knew it would end up being. Stay tuned for more. We're going to be publishing lots of interesting tidbits. Robotics is super hard. We want to make it easier for companies out there that are trying to enter the industry in some way or another. So that's what the purpose of all these videos are. Cheers.